Hello everyone, and welcome to our Circle and Salve Women. Today's 101 day, and I am going to talk to you about what is a story plot of your life. And so having this type of discussion, I'm very excited about it because I love to write. And so for me, having written this article, I really had to bring myself back in teaching narrative writing. So there are 5 main components to this. And the first one is exposition. And exposition is like the ultimate foundation of your life, where you found yourself from the moment that you embrace life. Now, you could say to yourself, I have many pictures. I have many pictures to show what my bedroom looked like. The crib was there. My parents put together all of these wonderful thematical things around my room to make it look so glorious and so splendid. And yet there are some of us who would say to ourselves or to others, I don't even want to think about it. I don't even think there's any pictures of it because I know that those were very, very trying times. I found myself under very harsh conditions, and my parents, or my parent or whoever took care of me was really in a position where I don't even know how I survived. And so you have to think of, where you found yourself to be. Now, what's beautiful about a book or a movie is that everyone knows we all started from somewhere, but we know that's not the end. That's just the beginning. And this is why this is more of the setting, giving people understanding where you came from, how you started, and really where you were, and the conditions and the fundamental things that you had to get started so that you could keep moving. And this could go all the way throughout your adolescent life. Now, as we move on to the next to the next component of a story plot, we then start to get into this question or curiosity in life of, is there more than this though? And should I be asking for more? Or why am I starting to then seek for more? And so then we get into our rising action. And that is again the next part of your story plot. And a rising action is really your ups and downs. As you begin to be curious about life, you start to venture out into different type of curiosities in life, and you all of a sudden engage in trying to find you, and you go ahead and get into those types of friendships or those types of groups, and you're trying to find your belonging and where you are and where you stand with everything around you. And so you may try out some things and go, ooh, that's not me. And yet you may actually venture into some things in life and go, wow, I'm actually surprised that I actually like this, and this could be me. And so as you continue to go through in life and then have that hunger for more, and you're more curious, and you're like, what about this and what about that, you're going to have your really ups and downs of getting to know at what capacity you're able to take. And some things in life are always going to end up being more challenging than you think, because as you keep working toward greater things, then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is requiring a lot more from me. And so again, it depends on what you have been given to be able to keep going. And then as you are given all of these things, do you then have that within you, inside of you, to go, okay, but do I then myself want to keep persevering if this gets too difficult? Because then it's going to be up to me. And so you are running into then where your heart, your mind, your body, and spirit run into that question of, do I fight? Which means, do I keep going? Do I persevere? Do I fight this battle? Is this the battle that I should be fighting? Okay, and is it worth fighting so that I can keep going? Or am I going to fight the wrong types of battles? This is that determination of, what battles am I fighting if I so choose to fight? Am I going to take flight? Flight meaning, am I going to run away from this situation because it's too hard, it's too challenging, it's not something that I expected to even have to go through, and so therefore I think I'm just going to take a different route and take it easier because this route is way too difficult for me. And so in that case, that is that flight mentality. And then lastly, that freeze is like, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to let life take over, and I'm just going to go about my days and basically just go to bed, wake up the next day, go to work or go to school, and then come back home again, and do the same thing over and over. That is that freezing situation where if you were a book, think about this, and all of your ups and downs, eventually do you succumb to that level where you just go, well, you know what, yesterday is going to be the same thing as today, and I'm just going to keep going with it, and you know, and just go with the flow. I get my paycheck, I get my day done, and I'm good, and nothing's ever going to change. This is what it is, and I'm just lucky to be here, and I'm just going to go with the motion. Or are you that kind of person who says there's so much more, that yes, I have stumbled, yes, I have had many, many different challenges and difficulties, but I know that if I keep going, I am going to get to my destiny, or all that I had hoped for. And I know that with no sacrifice, no glory. So I have got to keep going with this, because I know at the very end of this, I will at least die trying. And I know that if I keep going, I'll get there. I'll get there before I die, because I'm so close. I'm so close. Or even if I am discouraged right now, guess what? I get to wake up tomorrow and see another day to try again. So again, it's this mentality that you hold in your rising actions and your ups and downs, where you then can, it's going to be very telling of how your next phase in your story plot is going to end up. And so before we get to that next phase, think about it as if it were a book. This is ultimately your rising actions, your ups and downs, where a person gets to decide, go, nah, I'm going to close this book. It's just keeps going and going. It's not going anywhere. There's really nothing about it where I feel like I'm compelled to keep moving on with the story. It's not worth me even getting to the end. I feel like this is very predictable. It's just not going anywhere. In movies, this is typically where people will leave in the middle of the movie and saying, I'm dissatisfied. I just feel like I need my money back, because this is not going to, as I had hoped, and it's just getting very dull and boring. So think about that in these moments of your rising actions, because this is where really you get to hold people in, or you get to disappoint them and go, I thought there was so much more, but there's not. And so we then arrive to our climax. And again, this is the part in a book where you dare not blink. You dare not even miss a line. Or sometimes you go back. That's the beauty about writing, right? Is that you can, or reading, you can get to go back and go, well, hold on, let me read that again, because I think I missed something there. Or that it was so good that you go, I got to read that over and over. My goodness, I can't believe that just happened. And that's those movies where you're just like, you can't wait to tell people that they should go watch the movie as well, because it's that good. It really got you hooked onto everything that was said, every little scene that you saw. You just dare not go to the bathroom. You dare not go and get some popcorn. That's that moment where you're just like, oh my goodness, this is it. This is that telling moment where we finally get to see the other side of this story. And so that is the climax of the story, where after many cliffhangers that kept you hooked and then hooked and then hooked, you finally go, oh my goodness, I know that the big part is about to happen, and I am so glad I'm right here to watch this, or I'm so glad I get to turn to the next chapter or the next page, because here it is. And when you are done with the climax, now remember, you either chose to fight, flight, or freeze. Then we get to that falling action. Now, the falling action, if no books were closed, if no movies were asked for a refund, right, and they kept going, then your life is good enough to get to that other part after the climax. But this is the part where you then have to reflect and ask yourself, okay, how did that big part of my story actually feel? Was it something that I felt like I gave my all? And so when you get to your falling action, are you feeling like you're out of breath because you have you have been running, you have just been going through this marathon and a sprint at the same time, right? You knew it happened, but things were going so fast, or there are times where you pause so that you were able to make some redirections and some rechecks, and really at this point you go, okay, am I satisfied with where I'm at this point? Because now I'm getting to a point where I can start to slow down. Did I give it my all? Did I get to this point where you go, okay, I am getting to this part in my story of my life where I feel like I can look back and go, okay, I did that. And all of that I put in, is the reason why I'm here right now. And so again, whether you decided to fight, unfortunately, sometimes people get distracted and fight the wrong battles, and the things that they should have been fighting for, they might have ended up letting go, or that they ended up going a different direction. And so they were fighting in the wrong direction. And then by the time that you get to your falling action of your story, you have some regrets. Or at the same time, if you did, take flight, did you surrender a long time ago? And so that your falling action is really the same thing as somewhere around the way of your rising action. And there was really, the only climax there was to your story is when you gave up. And when you said, no, this is it, it's just too much for me. And so honestly, if you think about that, then you're at the point of your climax is where your story already ended, because it's not going to be any different when you get to your falling action. It pretty much just winding down to the acceptance that you have already surrendered and said to yourself, my dreams were just too far for me to reach, or my aspirations just became a dream, and there were no, even though I put in some work, the work got me nowhere, and here I am. And I just have to be okay with really just having nothing accomplished, or having hardly gotten there. And then for those of you who froze, you just kind of let life go, and you just kind of let life, pass you by, and you were okay with it. Always give yourself permission for the decisions you made, because this is your life, and this is the part where you have, arrived at your falling action, the fourth component of your story plot, and really, saying to yourself, this is where I'm at now. This is where I'm at, and I'm just breathing. And whether you're out of breath because you ran like crazy and you worked your tail off, and you've gotten to where you need to be, or that you are now just taking your breath, accepting what it has become, or that you have just been kind of breathing all the way through because you just never wanted to give it a fight, or you never wanted to leave it, but you just took every day as it was with no change at all. And that is your falling action. So we finally get to the now end of your story, which is the resolution. Now, hear me out, because sometimes people don't realize that they've gotten to their resolution a long time ago, because a resolution is you planning on how it's going to end. A lot of people may think, no, when you get to the end of the book, but if it's a book that is dull and boring, same thing as a movie, it ended a long time ago. You could have closed it in midway through the book, and the story would have been the same thing, or highly predictable as how it was going to end, because it just kept going, and there was nothing that changed pretty much to the very end. And so some of us who arrive at a resolution, if you think about all the challenges that you have put yourself through, and all the things that you have said that you are going to do, whether you're going to be financially successful, whether you are going to get that award or that certification or that degree, or lose that weight or gain that muscle and tone up and so forth, if you actually surrendered a long time ago, then your resolution was you never met it, and you arrived to the end of your story having just continued on every day of your life, and getting to that point where your resolution really has not been resolved at all. And so there's that difference between the end and then that epilogue in a book where people, there's a way to see how it ends up at, as your story comes to the very last part or the very last chapters of your life. And so think about how that will be, because at the end of it all, you either meet that resolution or you don't. And again, if you will not have met that resolution, then your story ended a long time ago. And so I ask you, what is a story plot of your life so that you have accepted the way it started, which was the exposition. You have gone through your rising actions, your ups and downs, and just continued on with life, and then ultimately made that decision where then you were fighting, or that you took flight, or that you froze. And then when you arrived at your climax, was that ultimately the time where you said, this is going to tell the rest of my story. This is going to be the part where people are going to go, I am now inspired to really outdo this person because I see that they have really overcome all of their obstacles? Or are you going to be that example of disappointment where people say to themselves, that is not what I want to become, and that is not how I want my life to end? Because the climax could be the end of your story, and you may never get to your falling action. And again, the fourth component to the story plot. And if you do get to your falling action, it wasn't any different than all those days and months and years that you've already put into, because just the vitality of each of your day was just very, very the same heartbeat as you did, the day before and the day before and the day before. And so there were never really any change. The sweat hardly was there, if any at all. And so when some of us arrive at the very part of resolution, many of us have not resolved anything. We are just lost dreams, just no aspirations, or have forgotten any aspirations at all. And, this is why there are only a few books that really get the best reviews. There are only a few movies that get the best ratings that people talk about. So as I end today, you have to ask yourself, what control do you have over your life? And then I have to answer that with saying, you have every control. No matter where you started, everyone knows people do not buy the book because of how it really started. Everyone knows that no one watches a movie because of how it really began. Great if it started wonderfully. But can you hook a person through your life where they will see that all the many things you've gone through, you saw it end well, and that you have worked through to that, and that you never gave up, that you did have that tenacity to keep going. And no matter what, there were many times where you felt like you were falling, and yet you just kept having faith, you kept going, and now the legend is to be told of how you ended. So in the words of my mother, God bless us all. Keep doing you. Keep writing those chapters. And think about all the many things that you could be doing rather than listening to those that may be trying to disappoint you from going on, or listening to yourself from wanting to quit and saying it's over. No, you get to go and see tomorrow. So keep going. Love yourself. Embrace yourself. If there's no other person to believe in you, you still have you to keep going. And when you get there, because I believe you can get there, then you will say, okay, now you can write my book. Now you can make this movie. Make it great, everybody. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time.